Oh, whoops. I didn't mean to stop you. Okay. Okay, we are live and we are beginning. Welcome everyone to the May edition of Outspoken, the reading series by the Publishing Triangle. My name is Greg Newton. I am the co-founder, along with my beloved partner, Donnie Jochum, of the Bureau of General Services Queer Division. And the Bureau is an all-volunteer queer bookstore that we founded back in 2012, and that's been here at the LGBT Community Center since 2014. As an all-volunteer independent bookstore, we rely on sales and donations to keep this machine going. So I'm going to pass it back around. We especially encourage folks to donate if you know you won't be buying any books. But whatever way you're able to support us, we appreciate it. There's also a QR code on the back of the bag if you'd like to give through Venmo. And anyone watching online, if you'd like to donate through Venmo, can do that at EGSQD. And I'll pass this around. There's change in the bag if you need it for those very big bills. The Bureau is open Wednesdays through Sundays from 1 to 7 p.m. And then we often stay open later when we have events such as this. And if you're not already on our email list and you would like to be, you can sign up for that at the back of the room. Or for those of you watching online, you can go to our website, egsqd.com, and sign up for that. And you'll get an email every other Monday about our upcoming events. And we are in high queer season now, so there are many, many events coming up. So please check that out. Before we begin, I just wanted to read a land acknowledgement. So the Bureau acknowledges that our organization operates on the unceded land of the Munsee Lenape. We encourage you to join the Bureau in signing up to make a monthly donation to the American Indian Community Houses Mannahatta Fund. The Mannahatta Fund, according to its website, is an invitation to all settlers and non-native people who wish to acknowledge the legacy of theft and genocide that comprise the history of New York City and the United States. And you can find out more at mannahattafund.org. The Bureau also recognizes Palestinian liberation as a fundamental part of our collective queer liberation. And we encourage you to read the flyer we have in the back corner about why we feel it's important for queer people to speak up in solidarity with Palestinians, especially at this moment. And now, that's it from me, so please give a warm welcome to Carol Rosenfeld of the Publishing Triangle.
Hi there, and it's great to see you all here. So I am filling in for Rob Burns, who actually curates the series, and he's got a day job event that he has to go to tonight. So as the chair, I'm filling in for him. And I'm really excited to be here because it's going to be a great reading. I've read on the websites of all our readers, and I'm really excited to hear them because they all sound really terrific, and I hope you'll buy their books. So our first reader is going to be Christopher Bolin. Christopher Bolin is the author of 6 novels, numerous short stories, essays, and interviews. His latest novel, Havoc, was published in December 2024 by Harper. Please welcome Christopher.
Thank you so much. It happens because I'm so tall. Maybe I'll get up though. There you go. Just squeeze the handle there. Okay, thank you. Thank you to the Bureau for having me and the Publishing Triangle. I really appreciate it. Nice to meet you, Carol. I was originally going to read a short story I had written for a queer thriller book that's coming out in the fall. But I'm going to do something that I never do, which is I'm going to read the first very short chapter of the new novel I'm working on. I never do that because I never want to face any sort of criticism until I finish the book, because then I can't start over. But it's good to try something new. So anyway, this book is set in Paris and it involves sort of like a duet of two different voices. One is first person and the other is third. And yeah, so I'm just going to read the first chapter, and it's the first person, clearly. I hope it lives up to when I wrote it 3 months ago. Okay. For the record, I'm the one who killed him. I feel like I'm breaking a rule here, as if I'm supposed to wait until the very last moment to make this kind of confession. But I don't see any point in leaving you in the dark. The darkness is where the whole idea began, lying in bed, unable to sleep at 2:30, my brain spinning like a car on ice, looking for a place to crash. My name is Martin Jameson Hayes. Friends call me Jamie. And early this morning, I killed Jamie Employer in the bedroom of his Paris apartment. A gorgeous duplex, if a touch over renovated, with one of those rare low-to-the-ground Seine views that you can only find in the center of the city. I honestly didn't think I'd go through with it. Up until the last second, I was sure some emergency supply of sanity would kick in, and I'd slip away from the would-be crime scene, feeling both defeated and utterly grateful for how close I came to the brink. In the end, the most disturbing part of the murder was how simple it was. An act that once begun, like climbing the ladder and standing at the edge of a high diving board, is easier just to go through with than turn back. I wish I weren't telling you all this. I'd rather tell you about Paris, how I fell in love with it when I first arrived 25 years ago on a 6-month modeling visa. I spoke about 3 words of French, and in my pocket was an email printed out from my agent listing the address of a 2-bedroom apartment in Belleville that could sleep 7. No kitchen, so that we'd have to eat out, but of course we were all morbidly skinny and had pretty ideas about our futures, and anyway, we wanted to save all our money for going out at night. I wish I could tell you about my first impressions of the city, how it struck me almost like a blow to the chest, as so broodingly romantic, how everyone perceives Paris on first sight that way. And only a few months living here did I realize that I'd confused romance with loneliness. That's a newcomer's mistake. Paris is a paradise of grays, the monkish grays of the medieval walls and churches, the sandpaper gray of the carbon copy Haussmann buildings, the peacock gray with the cobblestones fanning out under gunmetal gray traffic, gray elders on gray benches kicking up clouds of beige gray gravel. Even the sun here carries a silver shine. I don't know how well traveled you are, but Paris is unlike those southern European capitals whose architecture shimmers and dissolves in the sun, or its northern equivalents rebuilt in the last century with such ugly efficiency as if the planners had already anticipated future bombs. Paris doesn't ask you to love it, just to admire it. I did both. The loneliness gets to you until it defines you, and then you're in real trouble, even when you master the language, unless you find someone who can pull you out. 7 years ago, I met my boyfriend here. I should say partner, but I like the danger and sexiness of the term boyfriend. Ruben, my partner, boyfriend, likes lover for the same reason, but I can never utter that word with a straight face. What I can tell you with a straight face is that my love for him is so mixed up with my love of Paris that I can no longer separate the two. That's when you know you're home. I'd like to tell you that I'm a good person, or a good enough person, or a man put in an impossible position who chose the only possible way out. Let me repeat that the decision was made rashly after hours of sleeplessness, my mind racing over a torn-up track. And I'd also come to the conclusion of murdering during one of the worst heat waves on record, and we don't have an AC in our bedroom because I'm frugal, and Ruben is weirdly French in his superstition that AC is the secret cause of the death of the planet. But these, I know, are mere excuses. I've never understood the world's single-minded obsession with the identity of the killer. Who did it? Who? Outside of fiction, who did it never turns out to be much of a surprise. For me, the fascination lies in the fact that the killer resorted to murder in the first place, that they tethered their fate to the belief that murder would somehow improve their situation. It waits to be seen if it improves mine. Since this is my story, or at least partly so, this is a story of uncommon people, or common people wandering down uncommon paths, or brilliant people who are as invisible as the seconds on the clock. My kind. If you want to judge anyone in this story, judge me. The world appreciates a clever criminal only up to a certain point. That point is usually the moment they're caught, and everyone is free to denounce them. Here's a second confession, off the record. I don't intend to get caught. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you had the courage to do that because it sounds really great and I can't wait to read the book. So our next reader is Esther Lin. Esther Lin was born in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and lived in the United States as an undocumented immigrant for 21 years. She is the author of Cold Thief Place, winner of the 2023 Alice James Award, The Ghost Wife, winner of the 2019 Poetry Society of America's Chapbook Fellowship, and she is the co-editor of Here to Stay, Poetry and Prose from the Undocumented Diaspora, HarperCollins 2024. So please welcome Esther Lin.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
Squeeze it. Yeah.
Squeeze the pole, I can do that. Yeah, thank you all for being here. This is such a pleasure. I think I'm going to read 4 short poems. And then because we just heard about Paris, I figured I'd end on a French poem too. Because I got to go to Paris for 3 months in 2022. So not long enough to fall in love, but long enough to maneuver the subway system. This first poem is just a title poem. It's called Cold Thief Place. And it's about my childhood when I was undocumented. My parents were also, my mother in particular was also an intense evangelical Christian. So there was a sense of both a spiritual claustrophobia as well as a sort of physical fear of ICE and deportation. So this is called Cold Thief Place. The prophet knew I could be deported, but he said my soul, as well as my body, could suffer. What did I fear more? A fire clawing its way along my rug, offering me what I love best. Or a man at the door, asking quietly my name, my date of birth. Thank you. I eventually got a green card because I married for one. This was back in 2010 about, so this was before the arrival of DACA and such things. And it was a difficult undertaking to be married. And when you apply for citizenship, a green card in these circumstances, you're known as the beneficiary. So this poem is called Marriage. You can guess my feelings about marriage after I read this. Marriage. What have you ever known of feeling satisfied? Replies the doctor. When I lament how rarely I asked my ex-husband for sex, meaning, why bother? Wasn't I satisfied when the Homeland Security agent said, quote, the beneficiary fully resembles the picture on her passport. The beneficiary has met that burden, and you will receive a temporary ID at the same mailing address. This poem is called Because I Was Protestant. Because I was Protestant, my choice in lovers failed me. I wished to be feted, scorched, beaten, Yes, beaten while held in place by the upper arm. I could prove my devotion. But the men I loved were exquisite in their refusal to say, I feel, I love, I want, you bent like this. They were flows of cyan ice, full of secret life and devastation. What was there to learn? Why did I believe? Love without suffering, this wasted my talents. And here's my Paris poem. I went to Paris in a program where they offered free French lessons for 10 euros per lesson. So it was kind of great, but we had this really tough teacher named Bathsheba in English. We were supposed to every day write one sentence of what we did that week. And it was my first week in Paris, and it was emotional for me because if you're undocumented and you leave the US, there's a 10-year penalty. You can't re-enter the US. So no undocumented people leave the US unless they're okay with the possibility of never seeing like the family and friends who are still in the US. So when I was able to go, I wept everywhere. I wept in the museums, I wept on the streets, and then I also wept in the mall. So I tried to write about like, I cried everywhere I went, and this was her response. It's called French sentence. My teacher tells me, Madame, you cannot write that you wept in public more than once. This is not a French sentence. Instead, let us write that you are moved to action, like the revolutionaries who smashed the stone face of the Virgin with the stone face of Saint Denis. On streets, I placed my hand inside pox shot into limestone walls. In bookshops, lithographs burned palaces, carriages, and children. The check-and-go refuses my identification card. Okay, this year I've had enough nods and stamps that this does not hurt me, for I have left America. I've left America. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. So next up is Griffin Hansberry. Griffin Hansberry is the author of Some Strange Music Draws Me In, winner of the Stonewall Award. Feral City, a finalist for the Lambda Literary Award in Trans Nonfiction. And Vanishing New York, both of those were written as Jeremiah Moss, as well as the Nostalgist and Day for Night, a collection of poems. So please welcome Griffin.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being here. It's good to be here. So I'm going to read from my novel, Some Strange Music Draws Me In. I'm just going to read the first bit, and basically it's in the voice of a middle-aged trans man looking back on his youth in 1984. It happened that green and crazy summer when I was 13 years old. A stolen first line, slightly altered, because I'm not much of a writer, but I have been something of a thief and a liar. I might as well admit that up front. It was a lie and a theft that made everything go haywire that summer. I cribbed the line from Carson McCullers, the member of the wedding. At the moment when it happened, or at least when it began to happen, that paperback was jammed in the back pocket of my denim cutoffs as I sat on the dirty, carpeted floor of the Swaffham Town Drug, reading teen magazines. Syrupy tang of blue slush puppy on my tongue, mosquito bites stippling my legs. I want to remember myself as I was then, a girl that is difficult to grasp. What did she look like? My prize article of clothing was a pair of Nike high tops kept hospital white with a bottle of foamy polish. Nikes weren't cheap and I had to make them last. Everything else I wore was off-brand or hand-me-down. My wayward older sister's Lee dungarees cut into shorts, a Michael Jackson baseball tee from Bradley's discount department store, a trucker hat with Pac-Man on the front, clapped over my unruly mess of hair. I wasn't good at hair, didn't know what to do with it, how other girls achieved feathered wings and lift. But I had good skin. Everyone said so. You have good skin, they'd say, admiring what one woman at the Jordan Marsh cosmetics counter called peaches and cream. I was a winter, dark-haired with light skin that didn't tan but only burned and peeled back to paper white. I blushed so intensely people would laugh and tell me I was bright red, making me blaze with deeper embarrassment. As for my body, it was an unknowable zone, an overlarge assemblage of limb and belly that felt like a thing of its own making, mostly disappointing, incapable of climbing fences or playing baseball, incompetent at dancing, too heavy in its steps. Heaviness had always been with me. When skipping rope in first grade gym class, the teacher scolded me to be light on my feet. By junior high, my mother prayed that I would stop growing so you don't turn into a glump like your big Aunt Beverly. My Aunt Shirley, the smaller, told me I walked like a truck driver. I didn't mean to. That was just the way my body propelled itself through space. My shape, that enigmatic packaging, had its own design and cared nothing about anyone's objections, including my own. However the message came, the world confirmed what I felt, that my body was off in its most essential calibrations. But even with all its klutzing about, it held deep coils of feeling yet unnamed. And that summer I could sense it getting ready for something new, a quiver of arrows looking for a target. It was 1984, still fresh in the month of June, and soon I would turn 14. Come September, spared the indignities of Swaffham High, I'd be off to Catholic school, an all-girls academy in a town far enough away I'd have to go by carpool. No more riding my 10-speed to the crummy public school, no more jeans and t-shirts. At Sacred Heart, I'd wear a uniform, equalized in an ocean of plaid polyester. In that sameness, even with my big bones and heavy feet, I hoped to fail less obviously at girlhood. Something to look forward to. But there would also be no more Jules, my best friend, who could not bear the thought of going boyless in her teen years and opted to stay local. Our impending separation held me in a state of ambivalent attachment, either clinging or pushing away. I believed Jules was too gifted to stay behind. She excelled at science and could play any instrument you put in her hands. On the phone, she could pick out tunes on the push buttons. Mary Had a Little Lamb, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall. No matter how much I pleaded Jules was going one way and I was going another, it felt like a breakup, like my parents splitting after my sister Donna left town in a blaze of shame and anger, pregnant at 19 by a guy who knocked out dents at Mike's Gas and Go and gave her 2 black eyes before taking her to live in Texas, where she named their kid Stetson because she favored the drugstore cologne, and it seemed like the sort of name people get in Texas. My mother told Donna, "Don't come back," and Donna didn't. The house was peaceful for a little while without the violent storms between my mother and sister. I lied to myself that I didn't miss Donna, didn't go to her bedroom to feel close to her, but only to pilfer from the records and magazines she left behind. If my mother didn't want Donna back, why didn't she turn the room into the study she claimed to need, though I'd never seen my mother study anything in her life? By then she quit waitressing and enjoyed the luxury of a sit-down job, working as a teller in a bank. She spent her nights in bowling alleys and discos searching for a new man, while my father, resigned to divorce life, moldered in our upstairs in-law apartment, sleeping through daylight and drinking beer until his night shift at the high school, where he mopped floors, and it didn't matter if he smelled Miller High Life. It had been years since I'd seen him in one of his bad drunks, breaking dishes and threatening murder. His resignation came as relief, but I still avoided him, like an old fighting dog neutered into passivity. He remained in possession of a body muscled with a capacity for violence. We had 12 weeks until high school took us into its unforeseeable alterations, and Jules and I planned to make the most of it, roaming the town's 4 square miles of nothing much. We'd spend whole afternoons watching cable TV at our empty house, trying to glean the workings of sex from R-rated movies like Risky Business. On Jules' bed, we'd lie side by side in the scent of strawberry candles and girl musk, listening to the song that Tom Cruise and Rebecca De Mornay duet to in the movie, that steamy scene on the train. And Jules would insist that the word come had a sexual meaning, that when Phil Collins sang, "I can feel it coming in the air tonight," it meant something different than the utilitarian word we knew. I tried to connect come to the idea of sex, but nothing clicked. Come where? Jules would rewind the tape and we'd listen again, as if to a riddle we could solve with enough repetition, trying to imagine how such a simple word could hold another, more profound and secret meaning. We said the word to each other as much as possible. Over the phone it was, "When are you coming over? When do you want me to come? Come now. Okay, I'm coming." If our mothers heard, we were certain they would not recognize our attempts to conjure carnal knowledge through the incantation of a common verb that meant only to arrive. Our days often began in the town square, the center of our little nothing place in the world, its fire, police station, barber shop, and pizza shop, a single-screen movie theater with a wilted marquee, Red Mike's package store, and the town drug, where the only reading material for miles could be purchased. That's where I was when it happened, sitting at the magazine rack looking through Tiger Beat and waiting for Jules. I was in communion with a glossy pinup of Michael Jackson in the shimmering blue jacket with the gold epaulets, arms full of Grammy Awards, when I first heard the voice of the woman who would turn my life in a new direction. The voice was deep and movie star dramatic, like Lauren Bacall, both the young black and white Bacall and the older one who did those commercials for decaf coffee because caffeine sometimes makes me tense. I looked up expecting an old-fashioned starlet. She wasn't, but I could see she was different. In a world of outdated Farrah Fawcett flips, lumpy corduroys, and Dr. Scholl's, she looked like Joan Jett. Shag haircut, tight black jeans and tank top with spaghetti straps, black cowboy boots traced in purple thread. Tall and lean like the rock stars in Cream, her arms were strong from playing guitar, I thought, or maybe the drums. She was chewing gum, snapping it in her mouth as she chatted with the pharmacist, calling him Hun, while he filled a paper bag with pill bottles. He looked irritated. The woman must have intimidated him because of what she was. I could see it in every part of her, a special electricity. She was a city person, confident and strange, a blast of cool in that incurably uncool place. She felt me staring and looked over her shoulder, giving me that glare perfected by people who attract stares. It was the "what are you looking at" glare, the one that says, "take a picture, it'll last longer." She sized me up and smirked in a way I took to mean I wasn't worth the effort, reducing me to the small-town kid I was in my stupid Pac-Man hat, my 2 white Nikes, copy of Tiger Beat on my lap. I felt my skin blush but didn't know why, except I felt exposed, like she'd seen something true about me, something I had yet to see myself. When she completed her business, she walked out, shaking the bag of pills like maracas. "Cha-cha-cha," she said, door slamming behind her with a tinkling bell. I stood to watch her swing into a beat-up black Trans Am, golden Firebird spreading its wings on the hood, and as she roared away, the stereo blasted some strange music I'd never heard, making me wish I could follow. "Freak," the pharmacist muttered. I didn't know what he was saying about the woman, except that she was different and maybe had provoked in him something of what she'd provoked in me, a feeling of being mediocre. We were amateurs, but she had power. I thought of Super Freak, the song we requested from the DJ whenever our Girl Scout troop went skating at Riverdale Roller World. "She's a very kinky girl," we'd sing as we sailed around in the disco lights, holding hands 2 by 2, the kind you don't take home to mother. Thank you.
I don't know about you all, but I'm really glad I'm here tonight. This is really good. So let's keep it going. Sue Landers is a Brooklyn-based, Philly-bred poet and pedestrian. Her new book, What to Carry into the Future, Roof Books 2025, came out of a quest to ride every New York City subway line end to end. Sue is also the author of Frankenstein, Roof Books 2016, 240 milligrams, A Panic Picnic, 0 books, and covers. 0. Is it O books or 0 books? O books, sorry, 20 to 1007. I messed that up, sorry. I didn't bring my glasses with me, so even though I printed it in block, I'm like messing it up. So anyway, please welcome Sue Landers.
Thank you all for coming. These readings have been wonderful. So I'm going to read from my new book, What to Carry into the Future, which came out of this project to ride every train from end to end. And I would get out at the end of each line and take these long walks around the neighborhoods at the end of the line. And so what emerged was this triptych to New York City. The first section of the book is set largely inside or around the subway system. The second above ground in the city's treescapes. And then lastly, around New York City's waterways. Because when you take the train to the end of the line, where you end up over and over again is water. So I'm gonna read from the last section of the book, which is a sequence of sonnets, each of which to New York City waterway. And it's each one is preceded by a contextualizing prose paragraph that I'll also read. Atlantic Ocean. In her poem about the Mississippi, Lucille Clifton considers how in water, the past is always flowing. Once a barrier island in the ocean, by the early 20th century, Coney Island had been transformed into a peninsula attached to Brooklyn by landfill. The beach isn't quite original either, with its sand deposited and replenished over time, held in place by structures perpendicular to the shore that protect against erosion. A 2023 study found that Coney Island is one of the fastest sinking areas of the city. It's got a history full of speculative real estate, predatory thrills. The ocean's a backdrop for the iconic Wonder Wheel, unusual for its swinging track where carriages roll free as the wheel rotates. This rare type of Ferris wheel, one of only 3 in existence, is called eccentric. In the light, in the lushness of light in summer, in the sometimes when there is time, in the nothing, no thing but in water, at the edges, at the shelf, I come to read it. The ocean, a music, impossible. As the wheel turns and uplifting, glinting in its blue spin, going around and around by the shore, a wonder, its gears pressing into old grooves like a known thing, but still a new thing, this clicking, that swinging, that makes me feel like I could always have, that makes me feel like I could never lose, this feeling of freedom. Newtown Creek. A boulder marks the start of the path along Newtown Creek, a trail cairn. The boulder, born of fire cooled, had been transported by an ice sheet over 10,000 years ago. Workers laying a water line in the neighborhood found it nearby. I began writing this book in 2017 after quitting a job, then paused writing it after starting another job. While not writing, I told the poet Rika Aoki that I had run out of things to say. She told me, writing isn't a reservoir, it's a river. For decades, oil seeped into Newtown Creek from nearby refineries. Its cleanup remains unfinished. In 2021, around the time the first COVID vaccine rolled out, where it seemed possible to imagine a future again, the Newtown Creek Nature Walk opened. Part art, part park, part green infrastructure, the path winds around the largest sewage treatment plant in the city, a collage of the organic and industrial. Rika reminded me that I had a choice to return to the flow. Poetry gave me a reason to walk across a bridge emulating a boat over the wastewater resource recovery facility, its effluents masked by sumac. To write is a reason to go to the tributary, to the affluent keeper of bladderwrack and muck. To appreciate all that is wild and all that is not by the Superfund site, the sludge digester, the Pleistocene rock, creek like a comma between burrows, crickets in the horsehair, the scouring rush. It turns out I want to write like a glacial erratic, the rock that wanders, ice-scratched, roving, and still. The Hudson. In the 1970s through the 90s, the vestiges of the city's industrial history along the Hudson, the ruined piers and warehouses of the West Side, became an unregulated free space for queer cruising, shelter, art, and community. The artist Gordon Matta Clark's installation there, Day's End, in which he cut out large swaths of the warehouse's walls, poured light onto the scene. David Hammonds's homage to it, now permanently installed in its place, takes the exposure further, replicating the same warehouse's outline, its frame, the shell. It's just that, empty, distilled. In a city disinclined to archive itself, it's not surprising that the Hudson is as boring as a highway. River by greenway of asphalt, that black viscous mixture, the byproduct of oil, all abrupt transition to the impermeable. Even the ghost pier, the skeletal warehouse, a gesture toward what once was wild abandon, seems an empty future. Where are the great waters in constant motion? Maybe this is a warming, like cypresses, those glorious rot-resistant river trees that can't grow back if cut too deeply. And finally, Atlantic Ocean. Again, there's Clifton, considering water the great circulation. Eccentricity is a measure of how much an elliptical path deviates from a perfect circle. The eccentricity of a line is infinite. Elliptical can mean a leaving out. I don't mean to sound cryptic. What I mean to say is that the city's imperfect and more than it could ever contain. A bedrock holding up what is loose. A history of human decisions, as many as there are ways to love a city. Yeah, these are my vows. To move a handful of sand from one hand to another. To repeat. The water is the same water, and still it is new, under the pavilion that smells like salt and sunscreen and pee, where an old man passes a strawberry to another man who nods in thanks. I am here because the ocean is there, to look out onto the horizon, to see from the edges of the city a vista, that which extends beyond what I know today, and to make the quiet choices of living.
And our final reader for tonight is Katja Kuipers. Katja is the author of 4 books of poems, all from BOA editions. Her most recent collection, published this year, is Lonely Women Make Good Lovers, and was the winner of the Isabella Gardner Award. Her other books are Beautiful in the Mouth, The Keys to the Jail, and All Its Charms. So please welcome Katja.
Lonely women make good lovers, sings the man on the country station. But that's not how I remember loneliness. Mostly too drunk to feel anyone's pleasure. And the next morning, that pitiful kinship of distance. Except for the night he couldn't finish it. Not in the meadow, not in his truck. Until finally we stumbled through the blue light of his shared living room, because at the least He needed some place to put my hunger to bed. In the morning, he thought to make the misadventure right, while I looked out the window, examining the scars on the glass, bird shit, a feather, unbroken blue sky. The same way I look down at my hands now. Everything's so plain, even my pain, which I thought anyone could see. It's been really fun to be here in the city this week with Esther. This is our third reading together in 4 days, so I'm sorry, Esther, you've heard all these before. But it's really fun to be back here. I read in this very room for my last book and have very fond memories of these pink walls, and that I'm grateful to be welcomed back. I also, okay, I'll say this. I was like, oh, am I going to say this? I'll say it. There are a lot of poems in this book that have pussy in them, and I always feel like when I read in a space with a lot of queer men that I don't want to like subject y'all to that. I'm like trying to be thoughtful. So this one doesn't have any pussies in it. We'll get there. The magician of the woodpile. The blue tarp is covered in little pools of water that shimmer like sequins everywhere a wrinkle has gathered. I pull it off with a flourish and start digging through the kindling and logs until I find the dicks, all of them, hidden in the back of the pile. The dicks I took in my mouth. The dicks that didn't ask permission, the dicks I loved, and the dicks I never really knew. I remember holding them in my hands, how soft the skin, how various the shapes, and cooing to each one, "You're the most beautiful dick I've ever seen." As if wonder were the only register my voice could work in. Now I stack the wood the way the dicks must have learned at camp, with the kindling at the bottom and the big logs on top. I add the dicks last, like a little pink crown of thorns, and I light the whole thing on fire. I expect to see spiders come running out, rats even. I expect to hear screams, but there's nothing, just a fire making me warm, even as the sun goes down at my back. Everything but my face, suddenly in darkness, like I'm performing a magic trick, like the magic trick is me. I want to read one that Esther hasn't heard this week. So this book is about a lot of things. I think of it as my wife book. There are a lot of love poems to my wife in this book, or what passes as a love poem for me. There are a lot of poems about lovers that are long gone from my life, but still reside somewhere inside of me. And there are poems about friends too, and people who have passed through my life in all those relational ways, platonic, familial. And this is one of those reckoning of friendship poems. I didn't know what I didn't know. Rumor was she blew him after geometry, out behind the baseball diamond, a kind of place it confused me to learn existed. Not pretty. Homely is maybe what you would have called my best friend. Her parents' house was filled with leaves and the smell of vegetables, and I spent more hours stretched across the rug of her attic room than I did in my own bed. Did I ask her about him then? Our bodies parallel on the floor as we examined the seam of her ceiling, her straw-like hair quivering with the tic that twisted her face when nervous or even happy, its flutter just at the edge of what I could see without turning my head. I don't remember. All I know is that she never told me. I didn't understand shame then. My luck was a short rope holding me always too close to myself. Okay, all right, we'll go there now. Bleeding. The world is trying to kill me. One news story, one sneeze, one bad president at a time. And maybe I don't care anymore if I'm dead. That's what I used to think when she put her fingers inside me. I don't care if I die. It felt so good. She loved my body when it stank, when I hadn't showered or brushed my teeth. She loved it in cheap hostels or in apartments haunted by a stranger's cigarette smoke, beneath the pale, hushed sheets of her childhood bedroom, when I was ill, on drugs, the day after I'd gotten out of the hospital, and every week of every month for years. Nothing stopping us. Her hands turned bright red with the blood of loving me. We put a towel down to sop up the mess, as if I'd died, as if she'd killed me. Our bodies collapsed on top of each other, just one more murder-suicide, everything but the gun, the knife, the man to complete the scene. And here we still are, despite every loaded weapon, pulling a red scarf from between my legs, and me mumbling, I could die, but still somehow alive. Thanks.
So, I want to thank all our readers tonight. Sorry.
Don't fear God.
Terrified of technical things. So I do want to thank all our readers tonight: Christopher Boland, Esther Lynn, Griffin Hansberry, Sue Anders, and Koch Coopers. And all of our authors have books for sale, and I hope that you'll buy them because I'm sure they would be happy to sign them for you if you do. And I have a couple announcements. There will be one more Outspoken reading in June. I actually don't know the date yet, but it will be here on
25th.
25th? Okay,
Yeah.
June 25th. And then on Thursday, June 26th, the Publishing Triangle and Penguin Random House LGBTQ+ Network are hosting a mixer on the 14th floor of 1745 Broadway at 5 p.m. So it's going to be a great event. You can check out the Facebook page, and you will need to RSVP to go to this event. And also, if you want to be on our mailing list, our email list, not an old-fashioned postal mailing list, there are forms in the back that near the desk that you can sign, and all you need to do is put your name and your email address. You don't need to fill in your address and all the other things. So I hope you'll hang out for a little and talk to our writers, because this was a really great reading, and I thank you all for coming, and I thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Carol, and thanks, John.